The Business Computing Weekly podcast is made possible by GFI Software, America's leading provider of network security and email protection tools designed for the small to mid-sized business, and by frugalbrothers.com, the #1 place to purchase GFI software. Hey, welcome to Business Computing Weekly. I'm Bruce Naylor, and that is my I gotta get used to this. My co-host, Jack McLean, on the screen. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great.
It is. We are recorded on April the 21st, 2013. This is episode number 396. So, you know that T-Mobile is now getting rid of their contracts, and you can buy your phone unsubsidized through there, and you can opt out of their contract at any time without the huge cancellation fee. Well, the CEO of Verizon had made the comment once that if enough people were to show interest in them, we'll keep that from moving here, keep them from show enough interest in canceling contracts, that Verizon would also look into it. And there's been over 94,000 signatures on this thing already so far, and that number is growing. People don't like contracts, really. I guess that, folks are finally figuring out now that that phone is costing you, you're paying, a couple $1,000s over the course of a 2-year contract to get a phone and the service. And then if you leave early, it's like $350 early termination fee, even if you're into the contract 18, 19 months. And people are getting real tired of that. I think people are now getting used to the idea that, because these phones cost a lot of money, and maybe you're better off just going ahead and paying for it. So it looks like with T-Mobile now, when you buy your phone, they're basically financing that independently of your data plan. And it's like a 12-month kind of deal. And if you want a $600, $700 phone, you're going to pay for that, and then you're going to pay for your wireless data plan. But you can cancel the data plan when you wish without penalty, but you still owe them for the phone. You're still going to be paying for that phone. What do you think, Jack? You think this is the way for the wireless carriers to go? Is this the way of the future, that contracts are going to go away?
Honestly, contracts may go away, but they're going to find a way to they're going to find a way to make a profit out of this. It's not like you're going to get off and you're going to end up saving a lot of money. I don't see that happening. The wireless carriers are used to making, especially the two biggest ones, which would be AT&T and Verizon. They're used to making a certain amount of profit off each person that comes through the door, and they're not gonna sacrifice that profit. They're not going to. They're gonna end up doing something. They're going to end up doing something to where it equals out, and you're not going to end up getting a better deal. It may seem like it on the surface, but you're going to end up paying the same amount regardless, I believe. And to me, it's almost a non-issue, because I've grown used to the idea of having to pay for my phone, because I have a truly unlimited data contract that was grandfathered in. And they're trying every way they can to get us, people like me, off of our unlimited data plans because of the 4G phones, etc. And
who are you with? AT&T, Verizon? Verizon. Okay.
And they call me almost on a weekly basis, trying to get me to get on their tiered data plan, and I refuse to do it. And
what's their pitch? If I can ask you, what are they pitching to you?
Here's what they say, basically. You could save money. You're currently paying X amount of dollars. You could save X amount if you go to our, quote, tiered data package. You don't exceed the base monthly limit on your data as of right now. This is your data usage plus this, whatever the other two. I have 3 lines on my contract, and they'll say, this is your monthly data usage between each line, and you're only using maybe 1 gig or maybe 2 gigs of data, blah, blah, blah. And they'll give me that. And here's what I told the last 2 people that called me. Yeah, I may only be using 3 or 4 gigs of data per month right now, but my next phone is going to be an iPhone 5S, and I'm going to be on 4G. And I'm going to be downloading stuff all the time, probably in excess of 50 to 100 gigs a month. And I'm going to be tethering my laptop. and I'm going to be using the heck out of some data, and I need an unlimited data plan because you don't currently offer a plan that's going to offer enough download for me. And the two people that I've talked to so far, they're like, oh, okay, well, if that's what you plan on doing, then yeah, you need your truly unlimited data.
Well, you know, where I live, we have MediaCom. They're our ISP, and during the summer months, we get a lot of network outages. Typically, it'll be a fiber optic cable cut, and we'll be without service 8 hours, 12 hours at a clip, and you never know when that's going to happen.
We had one of those last summer with Verizon.
Okay. So Verizon does offer a thing called MiFi service, MiFi, which is like a little hotspot deal. But I thought, you know, I don't really need that because I can tether with my iPhone to my laptop, because you can do that now without additional penalty or fee. That used to be a separate charge for tethering on your plan.
It's an extra $30 a month.
Yeah, but now you can do that for free, which is kind of cool. But what I found in my data plan, I got the most basic data plan because we work out of a home office, and other than occasional traveling, we really don't use data on the road like you do in your case. And but I found that within a day, we were without internet for 23 hours. Okay, so we covered a 23-hour span. My wife and I, this is without watching YouTube videos. This is without listening to music. This is just browsing, getting email, that kind of stuff. We used almost 900 megs of our 1 gig plan in one day. And this was just email, my wife looking at her favorite website for news and that kind of thing, me getting email because I get a lot of PDFs, attachments, that kind of thing. We burned through almost a gig of wire. In fact, I've got wireless data shut off on my phone right now.
That was in one day?
That was in one day.
It's funny you should say that because the figures that they gave me weren't exactly accurate. And I went online and I went to myverizon.com and I checked my account. And between just my wife and I, not counting my daughter, but just between my wife and I, we had burned through 13.9 gigabytes of data, and we weren't even halfway through the billing cycle yet. And they're trying to sell me 10 gig packages, and I told them, I said, I would require a 50 to a 100 gig package, and you don't even. I
don't remember what it costs per gig when I go over the gigabyte, but I want to say off the top of my head, $10 or $15 a gigabyte?
That's what Verizon charges, is $10 per gigabyte over. So theoretically, I mean, if I was on their tiered data plan, theoretically I may be going.
I gotta ask you a question, okay? You get in a situation where a customer's hard drive has failed and they don't have backups and they've got photos, music, stuff that they can't do without. What do you do? What are you doing right now? You're booting up with a Linux distro right off your USB key. Okay. And are you able to do a pretty good recovery of data with your tools you're using right now?
It happens regularly, and from what I've found, and I'll tell you what I've been using, but I did see this tool that you have in the show notes here. But what I have been doing is, like you said, either boot in with a Linux CD and pull the data right off the drive if I can get that far if the operating system's not bootable. The second course of action, if I can't boot in with a Linux-based boot CD, what I'll do is I'll actually pull the hard drive out, I'll connect it to an external adapter and connect it to my workstation. And a lot of times I can pull data off that way and just do a data dump from one drive to another. But if I can't if I'm having a hard time recovering the data, say the hard drive has gotten corrupted, I've been using a free utility called Recover from this people that make CCleaner, Pureform.
Sure.
So that's what I've been using as a free tool, and I also have there's a couple more tools on a boot disk that I use. Honestly, I've not been real impressed with any of these tools at this point. And normally what I tell people, if the disk is that corrupted, I normally steer people to a data recovery center.
Okay.
And that gets expensive.
This might be something, and I got to think when I come across this, I've heard of RStudio before, I've personally have used like the Storage Craft set of tools, Shadow Protect IT Edition has recovery tools and that kind of thing. But this came across and it looked very interesting to me. It's called RStudio. And now here's the thing about RStudio. RStudio not only will recover data off of Windows, but also Linux, Mac OS, as well as the new RFS system, which is used in Windows Server 2012. And so it covers the whole gamut of operating systems, and it really does look an awful lot like a disk defrag utility. Let me bring that right down here. It really does look like a disk defrag utility. And it goes by, it basically does like a sector. It looks at the sectors and the blocks on the drive and then recovers them. Now, there is a learning curve to this tool, and it's not what I would consider to be cheap, but I tell you, well, it's obviously going to be, this I think would be somewhere between what you're doing, Jack, and getting it to that data recovery service.
Right.
Because data recovery services, oh my goodness, those things are horribly expensive to get stuff done. So this might be, especially if you have a business or an enterprise, this is where RStudio is going to be, I think, that tool that you would turn to first. Now, here's another thing. The stuff you're using, Jack, won't really work with RAID. Almost all these tools will touch a RAID array. They won't do that. This RStudio does. Okay, so you can rebuild a damaged RAID right with this tool. Okay, you can pull. I should say you can get pulled data off of a damaged RAID, but it'll get that RAID back up and going enough to pull data off of it. Now that's something that you're not going to do with a Linux distro. You're not going to do with your open tools or any of that. And here's the thing: in a lot of businesses, use RAID, employ RAID on their server and that kind of thing. They got a Windows server, they got set up a RAID array. Well, if that RAID becomes unreadable, you are in a world of hurt, because normally you're going to have company data on there. You may have your accounting files, all that kind of stuff, and maybe your backup. God loves a lot of these folks. They don't have really good BDR, what we call BDR, backup data recovery. They don't really have a good system in place, and maybe they're copying to a drive or whatever. But disaster recovery just seems to get short shrift in a lot of shops out there. So this would be, I think, a really great tool to have. I was actually looking through this, RStudio, and this is talking about 6.2. It does look like a lot like a disk defrag utility. I'll pull it back up here on the screen. But it does. Here's what it says about RAID. It will create a virtual RAID volume using disk from a failed RAID array, so you can hopefully recover data. That is cool. I love this. I love this. I started hearing rumors a couple weeks ago about Blue. This is a major update to Windows 8. And I just got to bring this up on the screen right here. How about this, folks? Microsoft's Windows 8's plan, Blue, to bring back the start button and boot to the desktop.
Oh, say it ain't so.
Oh, look, here's the bottom line. Steven Sinofsky, if he was still working for Microsoft, this would not happen. Okay? He was adamant that we had to adapt to Windows 8. That's why there's no start button now. That's why it boots into Metro rather than, because of Steven Sinofsky. I believe that the
customer adapt to your product.
Well,
yeah, that's always a good way to do things. Make the customer adapt to what you want to your product, not the other way around. It's always good business.
Well, Windows 8 has gotten such a beating, and deservedly so, over all this, that even the most adamant Windows fanboys out there are now coming around going, you know what, this was not a good idea. Steven Sinofsky got fired. And Microsoft has yet to report just how many licenses of Windows 8 they've sold so far. Even though they've had a blowout quarter, a great quarter, still they don't want to talk about two things. I know they don't want to talk about the sale of Surface devices, and they don't want to talk about the actual sale of Windows 8 licenses at this point. However, talking about this right now, it appears that the orders came from up high to the Windows group, who have been pretty independent here lately, put the start menu back, put the ability to boot back to the desktop, and here's why. And it's very, very simple. Let me just, there we go. That is because Windows XP goes away, support for it next year, 2014. Now, we've got all these companies out there who are, their PC sales are down for multiple reasons, but two mainly: mobile computing and Windows 8 failed to excite the market. We don't want Microsoft, what Microsoft does not want is a bunch of machines being sold with Windows 7 on them.
Right.
They don't want that. So it only makes sense to start to get Blue out there where people can then say, you know what, this will work for us. We'll go ahead and pass over 7 and order new computers with Windows 8. That's my opinion. I think that's what it's about. It's the business world now that they go, holy cow, we didn't realize, or maybe we missed the mark on this thing. What do you think, Jack?
Are they calling this a whole? Are they considering this a whole new version of Windows, or are they considering this more of a just an update or a service pack to Windows 8?
Well, maybe they should call it Windows 7.8.
Yeah, they should. No, I think it's one of those cases where, like I said, very rarely does a company come along and they say, okay, we're going to make the consumers adapt to our product. Right. Very rarely. And I think what it was here, in my opinion, was a case of Microsoft getting a little too big for its britches, saying, hey, we own 91 or 92%, whatever it is, of the market share. You know, we can put this out there and people won't have a choice but to adapt to it. This is the way we're going, and people either follow along with it or, you know, they're going to have to. And I think people are just balking at it, and, you know, they're putting the brakes on, and people just aren't going along with the program like Microsoft thought they would. And especially with the enterprises. I mean, you can't throw that much change in an enterprise situation. You can't do that. At businesses, you just can't do that. They don't have the time or the money to train people all over again how to use their workstations. They can't afford to do that. They can't afford the downtime, and they can't afford the learning curve.
No, they can't. I can't help but whenever I think of Microsoft Windows, one of the sources I turn to is the super site for Windows. Here's an article on super site for Windows saying maybe they should call it 7.8. Now back to your question. Is it going to be a paid upgrade? Is it going to be free? What's the story? What's the dealio on Windows Blue? Everything that I'm seeing is that it will be very much a free update to Windows. It'll be a very, large download. It'll be monolithic type upgrade that will, I don't know how they're going to push it out per se, but it will be a large monolithic upgrade that will be absolutely free. Probably it is going in, right now it's an alpha or maybe doing some beta. I don't know if it's even made it to beta yet, but I would say by late summer or fall, that's when Blue will be officially released and being pushed out by Microsoft. And what I'm hearing is that it will be free. It's going to bring back. It does multiple things. One, for example, you can only on the Metro. Even they don't call it that anymore, but that's what we call it. It's going to allow you to snap up to 4 Metro windows together. Oh boy. I guess that, yay! They're going to be able to do that. There's going to be some other changes in Metro. The way search operates is going to be improved. But I think for most of us, the ability not to have to purchase a third-party start menu will be taken care of. You will be able to boot directly into the desktop and have your start menu back but you can still enjoy the other. And there are some great things about Windows 8. It is indeed a little bit faster at boot, and it shuts down a little bit cleaner and quicker than Windows 7. So that's great. But we just want compatibility with our applications, and we want to be able to run and get our work done when we're in the business world. So this story right here, 62% of companies to allow bring your own device by year end. Jack, I've seen this statistic, and I'm very impressed You know, I come out of the old days, the bad old days, when the IT department was absolute gods in a company. They assigned you your phone or your pager, your laptop, and you used the software that they installed on that, and they did not, absolutely did not want to talk about you bringing your own laptop, running your any software, period. Boy, have times have changed. A lot of people never think about Macs. Where would I go for resources about using a Mac in business? Well, I'm going to put the link down there, but it's apple.com/business/Mac. Now, this actually used to have videos at one time, this section, from companies that used Macs and how they used them. I was not, giving a cursory look at this site, was not able to locate those anymore. But on this page, this will some of the things that they can talk to you about. For example, well, part of it might be a sales pitch, but part of it talks about the ability to work with, this is big right here, Exchange Server. You can't seriously talk about any ecosystem that doesn't support Exchange and, you know, the Microsoft way of doing things. And yeah, you can get Office for a Mac and all that. There's information about Boot Camp on here, Safe App downloads. But there's also, you can use programs like iMessage for Business. It's on there. Protection from malicious code. All that's built into there. But, you know, they also make a server product. And I don't think a lot of people is aware that Mac also has a server. Well, they sure do. And it's an absolute bargain compared to something like Windows Server. I mean, really cheap. What is that, like $49 or something like that to...
Yeah, I believe so.
And really, the oily bits of the server is already baked into every copy of OS X. What this does is a set of utilities and graphical user interfaces to switch on and configure and use those things.
It just makes it easier.
It just makes it, but you get things like file sharing, a VPN server. You can have something similar to Active Directory, LDAP as we call it. Mm-hmm. I think we better end this thing on that note. What do you say?
That works for me.
All right. Remember, folks, if it's in your shop, not making you money, saving you money, get it out of there. Bruce Taylor and my co-host, the effervescent Jack McQueen.
Effervescent. Yes.
Effervescent. That's your other new word. Oh, he's going to get metrified.
That's it.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.